Hey, what's up, folks? Jamie Foxx posted a vague Bible reference on his Instagram about how, quote unquote, they killed Jesus. And then today he posted a follow-up apologizing to the Jewish community. Jennifer Aniston also apologized for liking or not liking the post. I'm not sure what's going on. We're going to talk about it, read the posts, and say what everyone's thinking, which is what the heck happened to Jamie Foxx that got him intubated that somehow is not part of the conversation anymore. God bless you guys. Show starts now.
It's the Dream Rare Podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of the Dream Rare Podcast. We're going to go through the whole story of Jamie Foxx doing a vague Bible Jesus reference, posting it on his Instagram story, and then apologizing to the Jewish community for posting it. So we're going to read all the posts. And also, I want to say before I start, what happened to Jamie Foxx? You know, it's like he got intubated. He said he almost died. He's gone for years because he's not saying anything. Some people are speculating it's a vaccine injury. I'm not saying it is, but that's what people are saying. Others are talking about his relationship with Diddy. I'm obviously not saying it's that, but everyone's speculating on what's going on. And that's why this vague post made it even more interesting, because he's not just a random guy coming out being like, they killed Jesus. What do you think they'll do to you? It's like he's disappeared from the public eye for months and came back and said he almost died. So it makes it that much more mysterious. I think that's why it's such a massive story. Let's read the first post. This is the original one he posted to his Instagram story yesterday. I covered it on my news website, streamrare.com. He simply posted in all capitals, "They killed this dude named Jesus. What do you think they'll do to you? Hashtag fake friends, hashtag fake love." I'm going to be honest. When I first saw that, my first reaction was, damn. Maybe he's about to tell us what happened with his massive injury or illness or death. That's what I was thinking, that he was going to come out and be like, yo, someone tried to kill me. They did this, they did that. Then he responded with this. Hold on one second. He reposted this on his Instagram story, and he said, Judas showed himself, the Bible person Judas, Jamie Foxx, know them for what they are. So he responded to his friend, I guess, Marquise Anthony, who said, Judas showed himself. They're being very vague, right? They're not saying who, fake friends, fake loves, they killed Jesus. You know, what do you think they'll do to you? Before I read his apology, I have to say, the people that wanted it to mean Jews obviously thought he was talking about Jews. Some people felt that way. Some Jewish people took it as that. Many did not. They didn't even think about it like that. I was reading a lot of the comments on my Facebook. Most people were not seeing it that way. Everything's perspective and perception, especially when you say something really, really vague and don't really name names and you're talking about fake friends. Are you being broad and saying that, you know, Jesus got persecuted in this world? What do you think they'll do to you? The word they, I guess that's not his preferred pronoun, but you know, I didn't think it was that crazy. Some did, some didn't. Here's his apology. Apparently, he really felt the need to say this. So here it is. Jamie Foxx said, I want to apologize to the Jewish community and everyone who was offended by my post. I now know my choice of words have caused offense, and I'm sorry. That was never my intent. To clarify, I was betrayed by a fake friend, and that's what I meant with they, not anything more. I only have love in my heart for everyone. I love and support the Jewish community. My deepest apologies to anyone who's offended. Heart, heart, heart. Nothing but love always, Jamie Foxx. I'm going to be honest. I'm not just saying this. Everybody knows I'm not afraid to say what I think, and I'm not afraid to talk about this stuff. I personally didn't think he was talking about Jews when he said that. I didn't think he was talking about the Jewish community. I've never heard him say anything like that. So my interpretation of it was fake friends, fake love. I don't know. He was beefing with someone, and I was hoping, to be honest, he'd come out and say what happened. Because when you get sick and almost die from intubation, like something happened. Were you injured by a pharmacy product? I'm not saying you would. Did someone sabotage you? Did you just get sick? Do you think someone did something? No one really knows. It's a total mystery, and it's not my place to tell people what happened, but everyone's wondering, like, why did you almost die? Why were you filled with tubes? and you're not saying anything. So the next post on your Instagram is just like, they killed Jesus. What do you think they'll do to you? Everyone's going to speculate. People's minds are going to go in all these directions. And of course, when it comes to the Bible, the names that will pop up would be Pharisees, the Jewish community at the time, I guess, or some Jews. I don't know. The Romans. Everyone has their way of saying it. But let me read this real quick. This is Jennifer Aniston. She got in trouble too. It's like one Instagram post and everyone in Hollywood's getting in trouble. It's kind of wild. She wrote, "This really makes me sick. I did not like this post on purpose or by accident. And more importantly, I want to be clear with my friends and anyone that this showed up in their feeds. I do not support any form of anti-Semitism, and I truly do not tolerate hate of any kind, period." And she shared some posts that says, actor Jamie Foxx posts horrifically anti-Semitic message to his 16.7 million followers. Wow. That's the story so far. I want to say this. This woman, Doja Cat, her name is. She's I would say, hip hop artist or pop singer. I don't know what R&B. I don't know what genre she is. She dropped a new song and she dresses up in satanic imagery and as the devil, right? Sam Smith is doing all these weird, creepy, like demonic, satanic thing, pretty much, poking the bear at Christianity, like just, saying I'm free. I can do whatever I want. We're all dressing up like Satan sort of thing. And no one ever feels the need to apologize to, like the industry doesn't care when they do that. Like that's a thumbs up. So all I'm saying is like, what's going on that posting a vague Bible reference is a bigger offense than dressing up as Satan? Clearly, people who believe in the Bible don't run Hollywood. That's clear, because if Christians ran Hollywood, they'd be freaking out at the satanic imagery. But it's kind of the reverse. It's like even during the lockdown, the safe thing for celebrities to say was, "I'm social distancing just like you, except I'm in a hot tub and you're stuck in your house. I'm just like you. I'm not going to travel, but I'm actually going to travel. But you shouldn't travel, but I am. I'm essential, but you're not essential." It's one of these things where it's like whatever's going on in Hollywood is almost the exact opposite usually of what a lot of people feel, where it's like it's the safe route for them in Hollywood to just push the vaccine. It's not safe for them to question lockdowns. Like, even though a lot of people were questioning lockdowns. So whatever's going on in Hollywood and the industry is basically that sort of stuff. Like playing it safe is dressing up as Satan. Playing it safe is sodomizing Satan like Lil Nas X. Playing it safe is selling Pfizer shots. Playing it safe is being like Arnold Schwarzenegger sitting in a hot tub telling you to stay home. Like that's what safe is to Hollywood. So it's pretty wild. Like I'll say this before I get into the really harder stuff to talk about. Jamie Foxx, like, do you not know what you said? If you didn't mean it, don't say it. If you meant it, say it. Like what, you posted a very vague Bible reference. There is a story that people in the Bible killed Jesus, like that, that happened. So it's one of those things, like if you said it, I just want to hear he says like, what? I thought my fake friend was like Judas. Well, then why are you apologizing? If you think your friend was like Judas and you were telling the story of Judas killing Jesus or being a part of it, and now that, backstabbing friends and stuff, why sit there and apologize for what you said if you meant what you said? And if you didn't mean it, then why did you say it? I'll apologize for things I'm sorry for, but I'm not going to apologize for something I'm not sorry for. And that makes me pretty unique in this world. It's like, I don't know. Did you not know what you typed? It's very cowardly. People are so tired of Hollywood because everyone's just like, I'm sorry. What does Jennifer Aniston even mean? She's like, I did not like this post purposely or on accident. What does that mean? I didn't do it purposely or on accident. Maybe it never happened. Maybe they were wrong that you did like. I don't like. It's just all so politically correct where it's like, what are you talking about? No one knows what you're talking about. What are you talking about, dude? Who are you mad at? It's very passive aggressive. It's like sharing a meme of like, hey, there's someone in my life that bothers me a lot. It's like, who are you talking about? Becky? Are you talking about Johnny? Like, people love a good like passive aggressive Instagram story. They're like, I'm frustrated with. It's like, are you mad at your mom? Like, I don't know. So it's just very cowardly in my opinion. Keeping it moving to that, I mean, what do you guys think? I haven't really seen any of the comments. I guess I'll just put this. I do want to watch some UFC fights. I was going to try to not work today, but I think it just really shows that there's certain topics that you just don't bring up at all. There's a lot of really sensitive topics, and this was one of them. I think that the Bible is now hate speech in many categories. Like example, people asked, and I'm not being I'm not trying to be vague with it. I'll just tell you exactly what I mean. Like, what do you mean that the Bible's hate speech in a lot of places in America? Well, let's just call them the rainbow people, the LGBTQ plus, or the Democrats, or whoever you want to call. They think some of the verses in the Old Testament are hate speech because Christianity does not look at sodomy like this amazingly great thing. Like, that's just not the religion. Same with Islam and same with a lot of things. But in America, you celebrate sodomy for a month with pride, which is also something that Christians are not interested in. It's like everybody's prideful to a certain extent, but it's like being a glutton. They see pride as a sin, where it's like, you're not supposed to lean into it. So the fact that most Democrat areas and a lot of Republican areas now are leaning into sodomy and pride, it's like pride of sodomy for a month. That's not biblical. So if you were to go read Leviticus at the Pride Parade, that might cause problems. That's just the truth. Like, the Bible is hate speech to the LGBTQ plus because the Bible does not glorify that. That's a fact. There's two parts of Revelation, if you read or are interested in it, that talk about the synagogue of Satan. That's a part of the Bible. It says, I know that there are Jews that say they are, that are not. I will make them of the synagogue of Satan. And it says it two different ways, so I don't want to misquote the Bible, but you could look it up yourself. And if you were to say that publicly, you would have to apologize. Could you imagine if Jamie Foxx said that? If he just read, Jay Electronica did it one time, which is wild because he actually dated one of the Rothschilds. True story, pretty crazy. But anyway, it's like, if you were to read that verse, you think you wouldn't apologize for that if you had to get a movie deal? You think that you could just say that on your Twitter and not have any sort of backlash from the ADL, from Hollywood, and from a lot of organizations? Of course you would. But that literally is in the Bible. So I would say to everyone, those parts of the Bible specifically, I'm sure there's more, would be considered hate speech. I would even argue that, gender roles, like biblical gender roles, would be considered hate speech also if you read certain paragraphs. So that's the country we live in. Like, the country's not super Christian anymore. And some people like that. Some people don't. Obviously, Christians are not thrilled with it, but I find a few things interesting about that. When you apologize, let's just say, like, to the Jewish community. I'm going to talk about the Christian community first. Like, if you said, hey, I'm sorry to the Christian community, what is a Christian community? Because there's Lutherans, there's Protestants, there's I don't know, like Mormons. Would you consider a Mormon a Christian? Would you consider a Jehovah's Witness a Christian? They believe in Christ, I think, right? But long story short, if you just made this broad statement, like, say you dressed up as Satan and this was actually a Christian country, and you said, I'm sorry to the Christians, what is a Christian community? Because there's hundreds of different subsects that don't even really like each other. There's Black Lives Matter churches that say Jesus loves the fact that your kid dresses up in drag. And then there's churches that say that that's insane and you're a psychopath. So when you apologize to the Christian community, what makes all Christians Christians? There's got to be something that unites everybody. I believe the only thing, not the only thing, but the main thing that unites all Christians, because there's all different beliefs, would be the belief that Jesus or that Christ is your Lord and Savior, and that, you believe in the Christian interpretation of God. That's like the thing that brings everyone together. So if you apologize to the Christian community, that would be what is uniting it. When it comes to the Jewish community, as much as they try to say in the press that everyone agrees, they don't. I'll just give you an example. Mike Pompeo, who's not even Jewish, he's just like a Zionist Christian neocon, I don't know, politician. He always says, and other Republicans say this, they say anti-Semitism is anti-Zionism, or anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. If you're against Zionism, you're against Jews. That's what Mike Pompeo says, and he's not Jewish. A lot of other people say that are Jewish. But long story short, that's what they'll tell you in politics. You can't possibly be against the agenda of Israel without hating everybody on the planet of that ethnicity or religion. But then I see on the streets of New York City, when RFK is having a speech, there were Hasidic or Orthodox Jews that were against Zionism. So right then, I know it's not true. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm not going to call you hateful just spontaneously if I can't prove it. But you got to understand that not all Jews are even Zionists. That's not true. Like there's a lot of liberal Jews that don't care about Israel. There's also Orthodox Jews. I don't know what their political preference is, but they don't even agree with the state of Israel. Do you have to agree with them? No, but it's crazy to say that you hate everybody of that group if you disagree with this policy when there are people of that group that disagree with that policy. So, if that's the case, that there are left-wing people, right-wing people, people that believe in God, people that don't, people like Ben Shapiro that say that Bernie Sanders isn't really Jewish, groups like the ADL that say that's anti-Semitic, that Ben Shapiro said it, Roseanne said something anti-Semitic. I'm not saying she did. I'm just saying like they say that even though Roseanne is super Jewish. It's just like, what does it mean to be who are you apologizing to if you're apologizing to the Jewish community when there's all sorts of political, social, and philosophical beliefs in that world? Who are you apologizing to? I don't know. I guess like Hollywood, the people that run these industries that don't want you to say that. But also, I would say, I don't know. People are confused at what it means to be Jewish because I think that there are racial and religious aspects to it. And it's one of those things that if you ever talk about it, even in a kind, thoughtful way, usually, unless you're just like getting on your knees, groveling to it, they will call it hateful. Like if you compliment Jewish people, sometimes they like it. Sometimes they'll be like, don't say that. That's anti-Semitic. If you criticize anything, obviously it's anti-Semitic. So it's like, you can't not notice it. You can't notice it. You can't compliment it. You can't. It's one of these things that like you're better off just like not doing or saying anything, because if you get close to that topic, even with like a heart full of love, they've called me anti-Semitic 1,000 times and you can't even find one negative thing I said. I don't hate the people of Israel. I don't hate Jews. I've had an overwhelmingly positive experience personally with Jewish people in my life. I can't say I don't live in this world where I think that everyone's the same. So I don't even know where they're getting it from, but I do know where they're getting it from. It's because I talk about how Trump and DeSantis passed bills that I believe infringe on the First Amendment. That's what really bothers people. But long story short, I think there's so much mystery around it that people are confused. And if you took a 23andMe genetic test, like I'm Italian, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Polish. I don't know. I've never taken one. So what is Puerto Rican? Maybe I'm not even Puerto Rican. Maybe it's like I come from Spain, or I'm not really even sure because I don't want to give people my DNA. I almost said give them my DNA, but then they're going to be like, who's they? It's like, I don't know, 23andMe. But anyway, there are people that when they take a DNA test, they come up as Sephardic Jewish or Ashkenazi Jewish. So that's where it becomes like more than a religion. For a lot of people, it's an ethnicity because your religion doesn't come up. Someone said I look Chinese. I've never heard that, but I don't know. I'm not mad at it. Maybe I could go over to Asia and they'll show me some love. Maybe I'll get more love there. But anyway, if it comes up on your DNA test, then I would argue that it's also an ethnicity and a race. Me personally, I don't care. I don't care that much to have like philosophical debates with people about this. I mean, I could, but it's not like a topic that I really, really care about. But I would say that, yeah, if your genetics come up that way, then it seems like it's a race and a religion. And this is where people get confused. Even Ben Shapiro, who could not possibly, he's super proud of being Jewish. He's super respectful. He loves Israel. He gets called anti-Semitic also because he says that he thinks that like Bernie Sanders is not a real Jew, or he says stuff like that because to Ben Shapiro, being a Jew is more than just his ethnicity. Being a Jew is like how he raises his family, what he thinks, what he studies, the discipline he has. I'm pretty sure Ben Shapiro thinks it's ethnicity and religion. You know what I'm saying? It's both of them to Ben. And he looks at Bernie Sanders and thinks Bernie Sanders isn't really what I am, the same way like maybe a Christian would say a Mormon's not a real Christian. It's just Jewish is more interesting because there's a racial aspect to it where Christianity race doesn't really matter. It's a fascinating topic, but it's one of those topics to not get too fascinated about because you're going to get in trouble. But that's where I would say people get really confused often, because to people like Shapiro, it's a religion and an ethnicity. To people like Bernie Sanders, I don't think he's religious at all. To some people, it's about God. To others, it doesn't matter. There's definitely a lot of philosophical debate going on within the quote unquote Jewish world of people who are ethnically Jewish and some who are religiously Jewish. But it just is what it is. It's I guess, saying Bible quotes just is a hate speech offense now where you can't say it. When people say that, I know that some people will immediately jump and be like, oh, he was talking about Jews, or he was talking about, I mean, let's read some of the comments. I know on Facebook, a lot of people were saying, I don't think of that when I think of the Pharisees because, Jesus was also Jewish and there was a story of people who were righteous standing behind him and people who weren't. So I don't know that the Bible was saying that, oh, all people of that race are terrible. That's not the story of the Bible at all. It never like points out and says, oh, that race is all terrible and garbage. Like, it's not what it says. It's like Jesus himself was Jewish in the same way that George Washington was British, but his defining moment, George Washington's defining moment, was becoming an American. So yes, he's British, but him becoming American is what made George Washington. And Jesus, being a Christian was his defining moment, even though being Jewish, I believe ethnically, is part of his story. And there were plenty of Jews that were behind Jesus, and then there were some that weren't. So I don't know that the story was ever pointed at like, oh, it's every single person that's never how I interpreted it. But that is how some people interpret it. I know when Mel Gibson made, what was that movie, Passion of Christ? I've never seen it, so I can't really speak on what it looks like. But I remember that the press was very furious with that because it depicted Jews in a bad light, according to them. But I guess the Romans didn't complain. It probably depicted Romans in a bad light too. Let me know what you think, but that is in the Bible. So, if this country is going to make it, a bad offense where you need to apologize or not over just quoting it or out of context, basically just referencing it, then I think everybody should kind of figure out what's going on at this point. Like, this country's not like the way that Saudi Arabia is an Islamic country. Like, this country is not a Christian country. And it's more and more becoming a country that I would say people are becoming hostile to basic Christian values in some way. And in other ways, it's not. When things get crazy, more people go back to discipline, I believe. The crazier things get, then all of a sudden religion doesn't seem that crazy. Because when you're like a free bird and you're like, yo, religion's crazy, Christians are crazy, and then people are like dancing as Satan, getting morbidly obese and telling you to get your 4th Pfizer booster, a lot of people see that and they're like, you know what, maybe I am like, maybe I do want to go back to Christ. Maybe I should be a little bit disciplined. And I'll say this on a racial and a religious angle in this country. I don't feel like a victim. I feel like, even with like Republicans, I'm a registered Republican, but I'm constantly challenging Republicans because I think most Republican influencers tell Republicans, you're the victim. You're the victim. The left's doing this to you. Donald Trump will save you. You're the victim. Vote for me. Give money to me. And the truth is, you're not the victim. This country's getting destroyed and conquered, not just because the left is so pathetic, but I believe the Republican Party is pathetic too. And it's like controlled opposition, like slippery slope sort of stuff. And it all happens for a reason. I don't feel like a victim. I don't feel like a victim racially, religiously, spiritually. Like, America gets what it gets. We've been blessed for a long time. Our currency is very strong. If you work the same hours in America that you work in the Philippines, you're going to get more money in America. So you should be grateful to be here no matter what your position is, because it could be a lot worse, and it probably will be a lot worse if we don't wake up and snap out of it. So I don't feel like the victim to anybody, any race, any religion. With that being said, there is a double standard in America, but there's a double standard because people accept it and they play along and they play scared. It's the same reason that, Jamie Foxx apologizes really quick. I'd have more respect if he just explained what he said. I understand he's playing it safe to be in Hollywood, but it's like, bro, you typed what you typed. Did you not know what you were typing? You got to apologize. The world is so fake right now. We could definitely benefit from some realness. And, when people say something about my ethnicity, it is what it is, but it's the same thing that I say with Trump and DeSantis, where it's like, if you hold DeSantis to these standards and you call him a rhino because he does this and that, I'm not mad at you. I don't care. You think I care that much about Ron DeSantis? And like, he's a politician. Talk about what you want. But here's the thing. If you say, well, if he does this, this, and this, and that makes him a rhino, if Donald Trump also does that, that, and that, then he's got to be a rhino also. If not, you're just a hypocrite with double standards. And I'm not going to cry about it, but at the same time, you're a fake just like everybody else. And the Republican Party is becoming fake because they hold DeSantis to standards that they don't hold Trump. It's become a cult and a religion around the Don. with that being said, it's the same thing with race. I don't care what people say that are black or Jewish or whatever, or is like whatever. But if you say this, and this, and this, and then I can't even respond or defend myself or say something, then we don't live in a fair country. And we don't right now. There's double standards for everything. They're trying to, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this, but like all these movies that had white people and had like white characters, they're trying to erase it and make other colored characters. And then they want to call you racist if you notice it. It's like, dude, it's like making like a Will Smith movie and changing Will Smith to a Mexican. It's just stupid. Like that Men in Black movie was like one black guy and one white guy. You could change it, but it's like, I don't have to like it. I like Will Smith and I like the other guy. So if you just made one a Mexican and one an Asian and their name was like Frank and Jorge or something, it's like, I'm part Puerto Rican. Why would that bother me ethnically? It's just stupid. Like you're rewriting history and just unnecessary. Like Snow White's got to be black. It's like, well, then how is she Snow White? It's like Ariel's got. They're doing this, and they're exclusively, it feels like, doing it in a pointed direction where they're like, you can't exist in this space without this, and this, and you can't talk about it. And we could brag in the newspapers about how we want your population to be here, but if you notice it, you're a conspiracy theorist. Then we could talk about you all the day, but if you talk about crime rates and what's going on in the cities, then you're a racist. These are the things that are annoying. It's like, I'm gonna use a political thing just to be clear. I don't care if you say this, and this about Ron DeSantis, and that makes him a rhino. But if it's also true about Trump, then you got to say it. If you don't, you're the same hypocrite as these race baiters in all these communities. And when it comes to like the black community, the Jewish community, the people that are like the guy you have to apologize, it's usually like the Al Sharpton type, where it's just like, you must apologize. Like Al Sharpton represents all black people in America. I mean, he's definitely the guy who's positioned himself to, but I don't have anything to say to him. I could talk to actual people, not like the guy who just shows up every time and then like flies out when the next crisis is there. It's so fake, but that's the world that we live in. And that's all I'll say is like, I don't mind people apologizing if you're truly sorry. I don't mind people being sensitive. I get it. History's crazy and the world is crazy, but the double standards in America are obvious. And I think people are caring less and less and less. And you're starting to find these influencers that are popping up, and they're kind of like shock jocks in the same way that Howard Stern used to be, but they're more shock jocks when it comes to like race and religion. They don't care because it's like, that's cool now. You've pushed people so far that the pendulum swinging back is a bunch of these kids that are like, dude, I don't care. Call me whatever you want. I don't care. You've called me everything. It's very odd. Like I've been called every name under the sun since I've been doing it. I am somewhat sensitive. I don't like being lied about, but at a certain point, you can't let these people drag you down where it's like, okay, you're clearly exaggerating. You're clearly lying. And I'm not going to be fake just because you want me to be fake. If I said it, I probably meant it. And if I didn't, then I'll apologize. But if I said it and meant it and then apologize, then I'm just a phony. It's like with Vivek, I'm going to do another video about that. I did. He said and wrote a book last year, under a year ago in September 2022. He wrote a book where he said that he thinks that Mike Pence made the right decision. He's honorable, that Trump is like Stacey Abrams. He's a sore loser. I'm not mad at Vivek for saying that. I actually think it's a good idea to challenge Republicans. I think we need it. But now Vivek is acting like he's like the class, it's like he's running for high school president, dressing up in little suits and being like, oh, if I win, I'll give you Hawaiian punch in your, I'll give Hawaiian punch in all the water bottles. And like, he's acting like the kid in high school that just tells you everything you want to hear because he wants to win, but he knows he can't do any of this stuff. So I'm not mad at him saying this or this, but it's like Vivek's running around like he's a Trump sycophant. But in reality, he actually believes what a lot of people believe, but they just don't want to tell you because MAGA doesn't want to hear that Trump's a sore loser like Stacey Abrams and Mike Pence did the right thing. But that's what Vivek actually believes. He wrote it in a book. So I'm not mad at Vivek for saying that. But what I'm trying to say is tell the people how you really feel. Everybody should say what they really think. If not, the whole world's fake, whether it's about race, religion, this or that. And the double standards are just escalating to the point where more and more people aren't caring about it. And I just want to have an honest conversation. I have no hate in my heart, but we need to have honest conversations around race and religion, because if it's all pointed one way, the pendulum's eventually going to swing back in public discussion, and it's already starting to happen. But what I do want to say before I end this live stream is you're not the victim. If you're white in America, you're not the victim. If you're another color in America, you're not the victim. Like, I understand that bad things have happened to people, and I totally get it. But at the end of the day, like, everybody wants to be like, oh, you're playing the victim, but then they play the victim. I understand the whole dynamic, but things happen for a reason. And honestly, life isn't fair. The same way you could look at that and be like, well, why did they do that? It's the same when liberals look at America and say, well, why did you take this in 1776? I'm not saying it's good. I'm not saying we shouldn't talk about it. I'm not saying it shouldn't be a part of the discussion, but it's like, at the end of the day, what do you want us to do? Rip up the Constitution because, you don't like a certain part of it, and then we could live like a commie country and everyone could be broke? Certain people own certain things. They own industries. They're controlling it. It is what it is. But it's like, if people, like, sometimes in this world, big bank take little bank, where it's like, if you don't have stuff, you can't act like with other ethnic groups, like people do with affirmative action. Like, I deserve everything just because I was disadvantaged. It's the same thing when people notice that certain people own the banks and the media. I'm not saying you can't talk about it. I don't personally care. I'm just saying, like, everything happens for a reason. And in my opinion, like, in this country, people are just comfortable, and certain people are go for certain things and certain people don't. And a lot of people just accept it. They just accept this idea that, well, I can't say that, or I can't do this. And there's so much political diversion where it's like, most Christians and conservatives, they're just like focused on Donald Trump. They don't even philosophically think about any of this stuff. And I'm not trying to be a dick now, but it's like, they're like, oh, Trump, DeSantis, like, if you act like sheep, you'll get treated like sheep. People that are way more, I would say, thoughtful about stuff, whether it's moral or not, they're going to take stuff over. They're going to conquer you. They're going to push things that you don't like in your own country. And that's what happens. It's happening all over Europe. It's happening in America. It's happening in other parts of the world. Africa has battles. There's battles going on in the Asian world right now. The world has never been perfect. We're not a victim. If we want our country to be good and moral and just, you just need to be honest and strong. At a certain point, say what you mean. If Jamie Foxx said what he meant, say it again. If you didn't mean it, then delete it in a poll. I don't know. It's like, but then think about what you say, because you barely even say stuff. I have to explain myself because I do podcasting all the time. So it's like, I can't just put out little statements and tell everybody like vague stuff. I'm talking for 40 minutes so you can see exactly what I think. Celebrities, they don't do that. They feel passionate about something, they post it, then they like cry for a month and be like, give me my movie deals back. I'm so sorry. It's a fake world, and we saw it with the pandemic. It's like, how many people just kind of were like wallowing in the wind. This is my last message, and I hope it's a message of inspiration. It's like, the answer, and so many people get so angry that they think that the answer is to like throw a fit or go do something. To me, the answer is super peaceful. It's like, if you work hard in this world, you'll get results. If you don't, you don't. If you can conquer your own mind and your own spirit, you can get results. If you don't, you don't. There is no affirmative action style stuff. I mean, they try to do it, but like, in general, there's people even on the conservative side that will think that way for them. We're like, oh, they have this and they do this. So like, well, why? Why? Well, because it's this. Well, why? Because that. Well, is our country weak? Yeah. Well, then weak people get conquered. That's just what happens. If men don't want to speak the truth, if nobody wants to question things, if everybody plays into the double standards, like a lot of right-wing media, I mean, some do, some don't, they play into the double standards. They'll be like, we don't believe in identity politics. Identity politics is wrong. That's why we're doing an all black summit at the Trump event, because we want to show black people like Donald Trump. Well, if that's the case, I'm not mad at you. I don't care. But you do believe in identity politics. That is identity politics. You get what I'm saying? It's like, this is the world we live in. It's like, everybody plays the game because they want to play the game. But if you play the game, you get the results of the game. The only way to reverse it, I think, is internally. People need to be the change they want to see in the country. And right now, what I see is everybody wants things. And I'm not trying to be rude. I'm trying to be inspirational. I want Trump to do a good job. I want all this success because I want it. But he's already proven who he is. He's shown you who he is. He's Trump. I mean, he does some things, he doesn't do some things. But at the end of the day, so many people think that they're going to get what they want in this country just because they want it. And they want to believe he's the character who's going to do it. And it's like, that's not a real man. No offense. It's not a real man way to do it. Like, if you're a real man, you accurately look at things. And if it's not what you thought it was, you have to face that truth. Like, you can't just like everybody just wants things. Like, the left wants this and well, you're not going to get it because your cities suck now and they're failing and there's crime in them. So because what you want and what's happening are two different things. You don't get what you want all the time. You get what you deserve. That happens often. So it's like everybody, I feel like in this country, just like wants. But on the right, it's like, I feel like they're just controlled opposition at this point. They just fight over DeSantis and fight over Trump and this and that. And the left did this. And it's like, meanwhile, the real complex philosophical discussions, spiritual, religious, even racial discussions that are edgy, but maybe need to be had to find peace between everybody. They're not being had in politics because you're being like led by a bunch of like socialist commie vaccine salesmen wearing red and blue hats that you don't want to ever think about. So it's like, personally, I just don't feel like a victim in America. I don't look at people who own stuff and think, oh, I'm so mad that they own banks, or I'm so mad that they own media, or I'm so mad that they own Hollywood. I don't know. Like, are you think like, people make movies, people do stuff, and they overcome when they stop caring and they just work hard. That's just my opinion. It's like everything happens for a reason. And if you're not willing to face that reason and just play the victim, you're no different than the left playing the victim. Like, no, you don't get a restart button where everything just naturally comes back to like moral people. That's not how the world works. And I'm not saying I don't want that. I'm just saying, if you want stuff in this world, you got to work for it and you got to be honest. You can't just follow a politician or like join a team and just like, yeah, I want it real bad. Well, you're not going to get it. And I'll say this too, at least in my life, everything I didn't get and every ounce of like how I had to work a different way than other people because I didn't get it, it made me stronger. It made me wiser. And I'm grateful for my struggles. If I didn't have struggles and I didn't have certain obstacles that maybe shouldn't be there, then it wouldn't be part of my story. It wouldn't be part of the journey. And that journey made me who I am today. So I feel like, people need to lean into what they have, be appreciative and grateful of it. But then at the same time, if they want to change the country, they need to change. You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone's like, we got to just get pissed at these people. Then what though? And I'm not saying this for any other reason, but I believe it. Like, even with the currency, people will be like, oh, we need to destroy the banks and we need to destroy the money. It's like, can you farm? If you could farm, sure, you could destroy the currency. If you own everything, you know what I'm saying? If you have a like built-in food that you're able to get yourself, if you know how to kill animals in the wild. But if you don't know how to do that, like, you're going to starve without the financial system. Like, everyone's like, we need to crush the currency. It's a great idea if you own a farm and can do all that stuff. But if you don't, like, do you want America to be like a country where you have to work 80 hours a week to afford 3 meals? Like, because that could easily happen too. I understand that it's not great. The financial system's corrupt, but all I'm saying is I feel like people just complain about stuff and they don't actually think about like what they're doing or how to actually do it. And I see that with politics too, where people are so mad at what the Democrats are doing and but they're not, there's no like strategy to like, okay, this is going to work though. It's just like, let's just get pissed off. And then it's like, well, then you're going to get in trouble and the feds will probably set you up again. Like, you can't just act like that. So that's my opinion. I know I got a little bit on a tangent, but overall, Jamie Foxx still hasn't told people what happened to him. He still hasn't explained why he was intubated or why he was hurt. Some people are speculating that someone did something to him. Others are speculating that's a vaccine injury. The speculations will continue to go until Jamie Foxx says something. He didn't say anything. He posted a very vague Instagram post that says, they killed this dude named Jesus. What do you think they'll do to you? Fake friends, fake love. Talked about Judas and apologized, because in Hollywood, talking about Jesus is more controversial than dressing up as Satan and sodomizing the devil in a creepy, weird rap video. So that's just the culture that they live in. It's weird, it's gross, but at the end of the day, like, I don't pay attention to these people. I mean, I think Jamie Foxx is funny and talented, but I like the Barbie movie, don't care. Oppenheimer, don't care. I'm trying to create my own culture, listen to my own music. Like, these people have been lost for 5 years. It's not that shocking to me anymore. Maybe it should be, but it's like, yeah, I get it. But here's the thing. Don't look at these people and don't envy these people. Who wants to be a man that can't even read a Bible quote without apologizing? I feel more grateful than Jamie Foxx. Jamie Foxx is richer than me. He's probably had a lot of fun in his life. I like Jamie Foxx, and I'm not trying to compare our life because I wish him well. but I'll apologize when I'm sorry. I'm a man that doesn't have to apologize for anything I'm not sorry for. You know what I'm saying? I'm more free than Joe Biden is. I'm more free than Kamala Harris. I'm more free than Hollywood. I don't look at them and feel envious of like, oh, I wish I had this and that. I don't envy their life at all. What do you got to get a vaccine, a mask, and a PCR test every time you do a movie deal? To me, that's insane. To me, that's like treating me like a cattle. I'm not a cattle. I would never act like cattle. So, it's like I look at these people and honestly, I feel bad now. It's like, it's just sad where it's like, if you meant it, say it. If you didn't, don't say it. Everybody has to apologize for everything all the time. It's pathetic. But if he is a Christian, he's not a victim, dude. Just explain what you said. Maybe he will, but now he'll probably never read a Bible quote again or try to like out of context reference the Bible. And that to be fair too, obviously when some people say that, like if Ye said it, I would be like, oh, he's talking about Jewish people. But when most people say it, like people say this in church all the time, when you go to most churches in America, not all, but most, they're talking about specifics. I know that it might like they'll use a Bible like story and they'll compare it to today. It's not that unusual to be like, well, this happened in the Bible and this is relevant to today. So when people do say that stuff, like the Jamie Foxxes of the world, personally, he could have meant that and he might be fake apologizing, but he could have just meant it like millions of Christians talk about all the time. They use Bible stories that are about characters and they compare it to their lives today. So if a friend backstabbed you and you compare it to Judas or whoever, this is not abnormal. People do this stuff all the time. And I don't think it's that like, oh, there's no way that could be. It's like that, people compared like Trump to like Moses and, different Bible characters. I'm not saying that's right, but it's like, that's just what people do sometimes. I don't think they're necessarily being pointed at it, but that just goes to show you like what type of country and what type of world we live in is like, that is harder to do than something that's like clear. Like you in Hollywood, it's easier to tell to show your 3-year-old son, dress them up like a daughter and say they're your daughter now. Like that's easier to do in Hollywood than it is to write what Jamie Foxx did on his Instagram. And that just shows you what a fake country we live in, where it's like what actually matters doesn't matter to these people. And what, is considered controversial is like words and posts and opinions and Bible, references. Like this is not just in Hollywood in general. People's priorities are just so screwed up in this world, super, super screwed up. And, what actually matters, and this goes to like family, like living outside the computer. I know it's hard because we're all like attached to it for work and fun, etc., including myself. But it's like the things that really matter, a lot of like I would say priorities and perception is just like so screwed up. So that's something I think about all the time for myself is getting that in order as well for me, because I don't fit in. I'll really end on this note now. I just don't like fit in with any like weird group anymore. And it's weird. Like, I used to like think that I was like fit in with like the conservatives and the Trump people. And in some cases I do, but in other cases, like I don't live in the algorithm they live in. I feel like they've trapped like Trump worshipers in like a loop and I don't even understand what they're doing. Liberals, I don't understand it anymore. Like I don't live in that reality. Like what Jamie Foxx has to do I don't live in that world either. So it's like, I just feel more and more, I won't say left out because it's a blessing. Now I can actually live in the real world and be a normal person. But it's like all these little groups, like everything everyone's doing, I feel like I don't relate to Hollywood. I don't relate to liberals. Conservatives are getting kind of weird to me with their worship and their double standards and hypocrisy. And it's in one way it was disappointing at first because I'm like, I don't get what you guys are doing. But in many ways, it's like a freeing experience because when you break the algorithm, when you're outside of like the little loops they try to get you in with a blue hat or a red hat or like a Hollywood, here's a lot of money and you have to act like this now and we'll control you or like we'll take away opportunities and now you really want them. Even though you're rich enough to go live somewhere else, you want, you envy the fame or the money or you want your friends, whatever it is, like they control people based off all that stuff. And I'm not saying I don't have any flaws or any issues. Obviously I do like everyone, but I'm just free. I really am free from those worlds where it feels great. I'm not even mad at it. It's like, I wouldn't want to work in Hollywood. I wouldn't want to do a PCR test. I wouldn't want to be forced vaccinated. I don't want to have to pretend that everything Trump does, like if he sells vaccines too much, that he's saving the world. I don't want to have to pretend like changing a 2-year-old's gender is cool. Like, these are just things I don't want to do. I'm not trying to be a rebel. It's not like I'm not seeing the Barbie movie because I'm so rebellious. I just don't care about Barbie. Oppenheimer, I feel like it's their way of controlling the narrative of history. Like, I don't, is it even true? I have no idea. I would like to do my own research on that. Rather, I get it's entertainment, but I don't know. I'm not entertained. I don't even want to watch The Sound of Freedom. People are like, it's a great movie. I'm sure it is, but I like comedy movies and funny movies, and I'm not into like human trafficking movies. And I'm not saying it's bad. It's just my personal preference. It's like, if you listen to reggae and you want me to listen to a rap song, it's like, I don't know. It's a weird time where I just feel like I don't fit in anywhere. But it's also cool because now when I talk to people in real life, I'm not so attached to any of these ideas. It's easier to like have conversations with people because I'm not like so attached to any, like, if people say something, I don't get like triggered. I'm just like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Let's have a real human experience in the world. Who cares what you think of this or that? Like, let's be real people and do something fun and live in the moment and not take pictures of it 1,000 times and not record every moment of it. Like, let's actually do something. These are things I'm interested in. Appreciate you guys. God bless. Dream Rare Podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section what you think. Try to be respectful always, but I'm not going to censor people. It's just, have a good weekend. Enjoy yourself.